It's beautiful, isn't it? We have watched, unguided. We have helped them progress.
Welcome back to Marvel Cinematic Universe. I am your professor, Mario Rivera, and joining me is the marvelous doctoral student, Sly Clone MC, who has a bachelor's in the MCU, a master's in the multiverse, and is going for a dissertation in Marvel studies. Today is a very special episode. And before we even get started, how are you doing? Just want to make sure that everything gets checked out.
I am doing great. I am so excited to be here with you for this very special episode.
That's right, it's extra credit.
I cannot wait.
Normally we will not be talking about the MCU, but I figure, hey, since new MCU movies are going to happen anyways, why not have a little extra credit and sit down, talk about our feelings. The movie just came out this weekend, of course, over November 5th, and we're here. So let's actually get into it. I know that you've been looking forward to it. I have had tepid expectations ever since seeing the trailers because I know nothing of these characters, and I'm really excited to actually sit down and have this conversation with you. So I'm ready to at least tell everyone, yes, we watched Eternals. That is, of course, the 2001 Eternals movie. That is November 6th, directed by Chloe Zhao, and is, of course, the next big MCU movie. Stars so many people, I'm not even going to name them. We're going to go by them individually later down the road. But, yeah.
This was one of the movies that I knew Lauren Rudolph who is a pretty well-known actor in the deaf community. Like she's really well known, at least in my circles.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew she was doing a Marvel project, and I was really excited about that. And that was like part of the reason why I really dove deep into the MCU. So I was excited for this movie just because having a deaf actor who's a woman of color as a superhero, that's just so incredible. And so I was really excited to see Lauren Rudolph specifically. And so going into this, I was like, this is one of the first Marvel movies that I saw since seeing everything. And so I read the two most recent Eternals comics. So I kind of thought I had a feel for what to expect. But wow, this movie was something else.
Yes. I was also looking at Lauren Rudolph's previous history, of course, was Connie on The Walking Dead, and recently was in The Sound of Metal, which was one of the more Oscar-nominated films. So definitely a movie that I actually wanted to really check out. So to have this be their first introduction for me, they knocked it out of the park as far as I'm concerned, and we'll get to that a little bit later when we start talking spoilers. But so this is extra credit. We're going off script here. I mean, I'm gonna let you lead this discussion. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about how you feel about the movie in general, or do you want to talk about the characters? Because I know that you had sort of an idea.
Yeah, I think at least for this first little bit, trying to keep it spoiler free before we start talking about the story. So like general impressions.
Yeah.
When reviews started coming out and critics were very down on this movie, a lot of people, I feel like, were getting scared that they weren't going to like this movie. And I think that's a really interesting point when you look at the Brie Larson speech from a couple years ago, where she's talking about how there's not enough diversity in movie critics. So when a movie is targeted towards a different audience than the critics, it does really poorly critically. And I think this is one of the biggest examples of that. Of a movie, I'm not going to say this movie is perfect by any means, but it's a solid film.
Yeah.
It's a solid story. It's solid characterization. They did a really good job with this movie, and it wasn't targeted at the old white male audience. And so, it didn't do as well critically, but this past week, seeing the fan reaction has been something else. And I don't know if you want to talk about your theater experience seeing it.
Sure. Yeah, I can do it. Well, the thing is, the theater was packed, which I was actually very surprised, because in the last several, and I'm not surprised because it's, this movie would be divisive. I'm surprised because of the pandemic and how I've been able to see movies within the last year, and how I've gotten decent seats even before release day. So like Black Widow and with Shang-Chi, I actually got where I would normally sit. I had to sit in the front row. So I actually was the front row in a Dolby theater. And my experience wasn't bad because I actually kind of enjoy sitting close up to the movie because I want to get that full experience. This was, this was probably the movie where I would probably prefer to be a little bit further back. And if I get a chance to go see it again, I would definitely want to see like the whole picture, because there are certain scenes in this movie that I think that are too dark, even for my liking. And to see the full picture, I would like to have been a little bit further back. But otherwise, yeah, the place was packed. It was not a seat that you would be able to, access further up. If you wanted seats, there's like a few seats left in front of me, and I personally found that to be kind of awesome. There was people behind me that they didn't talk. They weren't like the people that would like talk during the movie, but I can hear them. They're like, "Oh, what did he say?" But they were interested and they actually cared. And when heel turns happen, they were like, "Oh my god!" So I really loved kind of my semi experience. Like I would be like, she's like, "Who's talking?" I'm like, "It's that one guy." Like I wanted to be like, "It's that one guy." Like we were like having a communal experience. And actually, I haven't had that with any movies this year, and actually almost normally. So there was something interesting about this cast of characters that allowed it, because I feel like, and we'll get more. I'll talk more about the movie now. The movie is at its heart a family film with all these people that feel familial and feel like they know each other so well that when you meet them, they're already like felt like they've known each other for forever, even though you meet them at the very beginning of their journey, and then you see them throughout time and you just see the connections. And I felt that watching the film, and that's the stuff that drew me into it. And I will say, like, in terms of you bringing up, the critics and how people perceive it, I feel like a lot of the thing also is that this is not a very traditional Marvel movie in any sense, where the scenes themselves are very gorgeous and luscious with real life sets and real life areas that they go and visit, and it looks different than most Marvel films. Is it like you said, is it the most perfect film? To me, and I mean, it's in the middle in my ranking, but I still love those movies in the middle. They're still great films, and that's where I feel like this still shines. Like, this is still a movie that I will want to revisit and see how the story of this permeates the future of what's to come in this next decade of Marvel stories. So yeah, there's a lot there that I really, really enjoy, and I can understand where the divisiveness comes in, but I feel like if you just go in, and honestly, if you look at the Metacritic right now, or if you look at any of the Rotten Tomatoes has the score pretty low from critics, but it's almost hitting 80s to 90s right now with current audiences. And I feel like that's going to be your barometer. It's either you're going to really like it or you're really going to not like it. It's one or the other. But I do have a feeling that majority of people are going to see this and still take it in for what it is.
Yeah, I was really interested to hear your theater experience, because I had two very polarizing theater
That's right.
experiences.
Because you actually got to see it early.
Yeah. I did get to see it early. So the Tuesday before release, I got to attend an advanced screening with open captions hosted by Death Night Out in Seattle. And that was, wow, what an experience. You had to go in, you had to check in, you had to turn in your phone to security. So like you could like I didn't have my phone on me all night. It was a big deal. And so it was an audience that was almost all deaf. That I think there was maybe a couple critics and one family who was hearing, but the rest of the audience was deaf. And so, deaf people are very loud. I don't know if you know this about us, but we are very vocal. And so the energy was just incredible. There was, because it was an advanced screening, it wasn't like perfect. Like the caption timing was a little messed up on the movie. But other than that, it was just like that audience was so incredible, surrounded by other deaf people, and it was such a blast. And then I saw that movie, and it was like 48 hours until anybody else I knew was gonna see it. So I was just sitting, stewing in my thoughts for like 2 days,
Yeah.
just thinking about all the details. And then I already had tickets for opening night that I got like a month ago. So like way before I had the chance to go to the screening. And I kept them and I went. And the theater was not very full and the
Really?
people were not very interested. And it was like the audience was so quiet and it was so different than my first viewing experience. And that was just so jarring because, like, this is the first time I was going to an opening night Marvel movie with, like, a, like, audience, right?
Yeah.
And I was expecting that, like, electric crowd that I always hear people talking about, and I just didn't have it. But I'm so glad I saw it twice. I think I got so much more out of it the second time. The first time, I mentioned this on our regular
Yeah,
podcast,
it's Point in
but the
Progress, which you can
first
find on
time
our channel as well.
yeah, the first time I watched it, I was so focused on the story. I was, like, trying to, click in my head, like, what are they taking from the comic story that I already know? What are they changing? I was so focused in on the story. And then the second time, I was so focused in on the characters. I wanted to see those interactions, see the balance, and that really improved my viewing experience. Um, Also, after watching the advanced screening, there was a person there from I don't know who she was associated with, but was taking feedback about the movie. And so it was really cool after that movie to be able to just talk with a group of people about what our thoughts were, how we felt about it. And that was so much fun. Like we were talking about what we liked, what we didn't like, what we thought worked, what didn't. And and that was just such a great experience. But do you have
That's awesome.
any yeah. Do you have any, like, final spoil three free thoughts you wanna share?
Generally, I will say that I think the characters all individually are really cool in their own little ways, even if their powers are not necessarily the most interesting. Like, for instance, who you see in the trailer, Kingo, played by Camille Nanjiani, he has the ability to do finger guns, and I'm not exactly sure the purpose of him just being able to do finger guns, other than that would make him the archer of the group. But his character as a person comes through in this series as someone who's lived humanity and has been a part of humanity for so long, as well as having a human companion with him who, you know, I'm not going to spoil the joke that was set up with that, but it was really funny and a fun setup for later. But him and that section of the film brought so much levity and heart to the film that I felt like was very familiar to MCU stuff. So when he came in, it was very much like, this is the MCU that I kind of remember, the quippiness, the jokes. And when he came in, I was very happy when his introduction, which was also really funny. And then, of course, there are other characters too that I sort of started appealing to. And I wanted to bring up one character specifically in this section because if you don't know, please go watch Train to Busan, which I'm an idiot. I should have watched it years ago, and I watched it now. And my dong sick,
Yeah.
just a beast of a man, and he's a beast in that movie, and he's a awesome human beast in this one too. And I just want to give him a hug. That's all I'm gonna say. He plays Gilgamesh in the film. He's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, I would say overall, I think the characters are what makes this movie shine. The overall cosmic plot of the movie, I can give or take. But I do think that the actual story that they were telling, especially the one that you brought up and then we talked in the DMs about, which I hope we'll talk about in a second. I think that is definitely a
Absolutely.
big key to this. So that's all. I just want to say that I really enjoy the characters. I think if you love MCU for the characters, these are some fine additions to the canon. And I hope you get to enjoy at least a few of them. So
Alright. Yeah, for sure. I think th it was really interesting to see how they took these 10 characters, which have pretty, like, tropey powers, right? And
oh yeah, their
really
archetypes for
dove
sure.
into their characterization. And that was a really interesting dichotomy to see that all of these characters are a specific archetype, so you kind of know what to expect from them, and then doing one little thing that just turns that on its head and just kind of changes your perception just a little bit, where you're like, "Oh, wow, this makes a really interesting character." And
Yes.
I think they did that really well. Okay, with
Okay.
that, I think this is your final warning. We're
Yeah.
gonna dive in. Full spoilers ahead.
Spoilers, bro.
Spoilers. Go away if you don't want to know anything else.
If
I
it, go
wanna
see this
talk
movie, make your own opinion. That's all I'll say.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Go see this movie, check it out. Let us know what you think. I want to talk about this story
Go ahead.
because I watched this movie. I was in the car for a couple hours driving home from Seattle, and while I was thinking about it, I went, "Oh shit, this was a love story."
They tricked us. It's a love story.
And I had this realization, and I was just like, "Oh wow, that makes me appreciate the story so much." Because they take this idea of a love story in so many different ways of the term. You're not just talking about like a romantic love story. You see that there's, you have like three couples within the whole
Yeah.
Eternal.
Yes, and I love some of them are both like definitely heavily affectionate. There's a couple that kisses, but then there's some that just by their dialogue and the way that they interact with each other, you're just like, there's something there. You guys are dating.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what you're saying.
I think I know which character pairing you're thinking
There's
of,
at least two of them where I'm like,
everybody's-
there's no way
yeah.
you don't love each other. Yeah.
Everything I see is people shipping Makari and Druid.
That's
And I
one.
love that. I love them. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
one for sure.
I
Yeah.
can see it. I can see it. But you have like these heavy romantic storylines with like Cersei and Icarus for
Yes.
sure, and then you see it with like later with Gilgamesh and Athena, and like you have these strong romantic stories, but you also have this familial love between all of them, right? They've been here, they've been the only constants in each other's lives for like thousands of years, and this is like a family story. It's about family. It's also about like unrequited love, like you see with like Sprite and her actions and like her feelings, and I mean that in both senses of unrequited love, like her like appreciation for humans but could never live fully among them, and then also her feelings for Icarus, right?
Yeah.
And so you have that like perspective on love, and then there's I have notes somewhere that I have to find.
I'm going to bring one up
Of
that
all
I
the
don't know if you
different-
thought about, and to me I found interesting, is that Druid himself has also a sort of like, like in the same sense of you, of this like that is not obsession, but sort of this like overprotectiveness of just like he doesn't want them to kill each other, and that's why he like, I have to stop them. I have to be the one that protects them, and the only way he could do that is by mind controlling them and putting them in a place, and that in some way can be a misguided sense of love that I think is brought up in this movie, and that's why I think the funniest swerve in this whole movie is that the trailers made it seem like he was a bad guy because he has a power that seemingly can do terrible, terrible things. But at the end of the day, no, it's just because he has a passion for people just as much as the rest of them do.
He has this passion. He has this love of cultivating a community and doesn't know what to do with himself about it. And the only thing he knows how to do is to control them. And so that's a really interesting take.
Yes, which I was very happy about. Yeah.
The other one I wanted to talk about is the love for one's duty, which you see through Icarus. Like all of his actions are motivated by his love for his purpose. He feels so strongly about who he is, what he was designed to do, and what his purpose in life is, that he physically can't go against that in any sense.
Yeah.
And he has such a strong passion and devotion for what he has been told is right that's unwavering. And I thought that made such an interesting characterization for him. And you see like all of these moments where he's betraying everything he thinks he is when he's trying to be with Cersei, and it doesn't compute for him. And I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Icarus is definitely, and I've actually have somewhat of an interest in the character of Icarus, not the Marvel cinematic one, but the actual mythological character, which this is funnily based on, including the
Yeah.
very ending of his character, which I was happy that they did personally, because I actually written a short film about that character, but I took the modern sense of it, of a kid who is sort of suffering through something and is not finding his identity and stuff like that. So it's fun to see another interpretation of this character in the MCU. But this version, yeah, very much so. Like, he's built up to be the Superman. He's built up to have the man on the mission, but he is probably the most flawed out of all of them. But driven by his duty. And I feel like that's what's so heartbreaking, because you can see it. It's paining. It's hurting him to do any of the things that he's doing, even if he has to do some fucking terrible. Like, he is responsible for at least 2 of the Eternals' deaths, as far as I'm concerned. I know that one of them is being taken out, but
You all 3.
yeah, theoretically. Oh, there's 3. Oh.
Because himself.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true. He is in fact in control of that as well. Which to me is like, will that be the last to see of him? I mean, it is pretty definitive if you go straight into the sun. I don't know.
I really hope they keep that, because I thought that was such a powerful character choice.
Sure.
That he, you see his love for Cersei makes him unable to fulfill what he feels is his duty, and he chooses that he's done. He doesn't want to continue this.
Sure.
And I thought that was so powerful that he was making that choice, because that was just I guess we're getting into like character motivations here now, but I thought that was a really beautiful ending for him, that he finally made a choice that was for him, and that was really
I
great.
agree.
I don't want to see him come back. I thought that would tarnish the
That's fair.
beautifulness of his ending.
That's true. I do feel like, hold on, sorry, I got a cough. I
Yeah.
do feel like they did write themselves a loophole of how to bring some of these characters back, and that they're sort of
Absolutely.
manufactured, and their memories are stored somehow, and we don't really know how that's happened. So it's a high possibility we could see them come back. But I 100% agree with you. I think the way that you elegantly said that, I think that is what should be the end of this character. However, Richard Madden, I'm sorry, you won't be in the MCU. Maybe you'll find something in the DCU.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to circle back to story, because I thought
Absolutely.
this story was really interesting. Again, I read through the comics beforehand, and I wasn't a big fan of the stories in the comics. I thought they were very bloated and overcomplicated, and not really digestible. Like, there was a lot there, and it wasn't enjoyable to read through, for me at least. And so when I was watching it this first time, I was just thinking about, like, what did they keep? What did they change? I thought the way they portrayed the Unimind was really interesting and
Yes.
very different.
Yes, not a brain floating in the sky.
Yeah, and I liked that it was more focused on just having the 10 instead of, the 100 that are in the stories. But I really was interested by the choices for which storylines what lined up with which characters. And we talked about this briefly, where Druid's usually the betrayer, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't in this, and I love that. Another like switch up was not having Sprite be the movie star, having that be Kingo, and seeing that generationally, like playing different
Yes.
different family members, right? And I think that gave Kingo's character so much more volume in that story. And Sprite's story had the same essence, but portrayed differently, and I thought that was a really interesting choice.
And tragic as well. Just the way that they're
yeah,
describing
absolutely
it, and
heartbreaking.
especially with that scene they have with Kingo and Sprite are talking, and it's like, I was tired of moving every 5 years, because you can't really explain why you have teenagers not aging, and I found that
Yeah.
so sad.
And then that scene you see later where where Kingo's like, I got into movies because of you. Like that was my way of remembering you.
Yeah.
That destroyed me. That broke my heart.
Because it's true. You see the scene early on of Sprite telling the story in front of these early civilization, and yeah, you just see Kingo in the background just watching and just like taking it all
So
in.
fascinating.
And then to see that transition later of, yes, he is now a Bollywood actor, generational, his father, his grandfather, which was
great-grandfather.
yes. And then of course his valet, who's been with him for about 50 years, and the joke of he thought I was a vampire.
Okay, we need to talk about that line because that line plus the voice.
Do you want to talk about that now? Because I'll do it.
Yeah, I want to talk about this now.
Spoilers.
There's 3 things that I want to bring up in relation to that line.
Yeah.
So we get the vampire line, right?
Yep. Yes, you do.
Then we get Blade's voice at the end.
Yes, we
right?
do.
And then we have the upcoming starts with the M.
Oh, what? Midnight Suns? The game?
No, the upcoming Marvel movie in like 2022.
Oh, Moon Knight?
No.
Marvels?
Mobius,
yes.
Morbius.
Yeah.
And isn't that a vampire?
Yeah, a living vampire. In some capacity, it counts.
Okay, so we got Morbius, we got Blade.
You're going big brain with it, and I don't know if I can go with you there, because I would love that, but I have no idea.
Are we getting vampires in the MCU? That's what I'm asking.
Well, we're definitely getting vampires in the MCU. Again, Mobius is a whole other podcast, because that trailer is mind-blowingly like, what is this? Where is it from? Because we're tangent for Eternals. We'll get back to Eternals in a second. You see, he mentions Venom at one point, so then theoretically he would be existing in the Venomverse, wherever he's from. But then you see a picture of Tobey Maguire with murderer written across, which means it's Tobey Maguire, but with the storyline of No Way Home or Far From Home, where he's deemed a murderer. But then you see the logo, and then you see Oscorp, but that Oscorp logo is the same one from Amazing Spider-Man. Again, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
I don't know what's going on, man.
But hopefully we'll find out at the end of Spider-Man, and it'll make sense. But that would be great. So yes, the end trailer, the post credits. Just get back to Eternals for a second. Is Dane Whitman, who is played by Kit Harington, who's a lovely boy who looks like Andy Cortez from The Eyes Up. He's dating Cersei. He's only in the movie for like 7 minutes, which I think is a tragedy, because the few seconds that he's in, it's really funny, and then he's gone. I love the part where he tries to jump over the thing. He's like, nope, can't do it. He just wanted perfect. So good. He's like, oh, I got some history, blah, blah, blah. Then the ending happens. Post credits, like, I got to do this. And he opens up a thing, and it's revealed to be a blade, a sword of some sort. They mentioned it actually in the movie because Athena has Excalibur, and then Sprite's like, is that the ebony blade? And I'm like, oh, cool. And then he's like, nope, it's there. Which of course is a blade that has some ties to Blade, the actual character. And then we hear a voice, and then I read an article from Chloe Zhao. It's like, yeah, that's Mahershala Ali. And I'm like, oh my god, it's Blade. We got Blade confirmed, which means vampires exist. But the theory going on right now on the internet is Blade is recruiting people, and they're going to do a Midnight Suns thing in his movie. So it's going to be like the Black Knight, supposedly Moon Knight, and some other people will be in the Blade movie. Which, what? An Excalibur? Like, it's going to be a like medieval like vampire hunt. Oh my god, please. Anyways. Yes. Vampires exist.
Incredible.
Confirmed, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know.
Let's
get back.
I have one more. Yeah, I have one more story point I want to bring up.
Yes.
And then if you have any final story. I was really excited by Marvel's dipping the toes into the waters of nonlinear storytelling. Like, it's not a nonlinear story, but they have the little teases of it, of playing around with the order of events, how it plays out, how you're introduced to the characters in a really interesting way. And I want so much more of this from them. I want a nonlinear story from Marvel. I think that would be so interesting, and they could do so much with it. You would need a very good director. But I thought this was a really interesting diversion from the typical Marvel structure, right?
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where they're pretty formulaic, even if they're playing in different genres. Like, so many Marvel movies are in completely different genres, and I love that. Uh, but they still have the same vibe. And this was such an interesting jump into the idea of nonlinear storytelling that I was just begging for more. I want so much more from this.
Yeah, I think if they actually pushed it just a little bit further in terms of a different story that were, I would love it in the same way that the book Watchmen handles sort of like non-linear storytelling, where it's two stories being told parallel, but they're
Mhm.
intercut and they're referencing things from each other. Like not referencing like as in physically, but like they're talking about the same thing, but they are in like in imagery
Parallel
parallel stories.
storylines.
Yes, which I like how
Yeah.
the Black Freighter happens in the Watchmen story, and it's very much a parallel of what's going on in Watchmen about this man's journey versus the story of Watchmen. And I would love for
Mhm.
another story like that, possibly where at the end of the movie it all lines up and does something really interesting. In this sense,
Absolutely.
I think the way you tell the story is probably going to put some people off, but I actually think it's probably the right way to do it. Because if I just sort of did a like modern day story with all these characters and just heard about the backstory of all these characters, I don't think is interesting because it's all that was it show and don't tell, like that kind of deal. Like I wanted to see it, and then I'm glad
Mhm.
that they did.
Absolutely.
The scene that I'm like the one that I think I enjoy the most, even though it's the quickest one, is the Hiroshima thing. As a hero section, only because of how much that you see how much that devastates that character. Because earlier on in the movie, you saw that he wanted to give them so much more, so much early on. He wanted to give them a steam
Mhm.
engine to propel them to some states, and they were like, we can't do that. It will hurt the little brain, so we have to give them a plow, which I researched plow
Yeah.
apparently was a massive change still, like a massive thing for
Yeah.
society to even develop. And so the fact that they even got that amount from that little thing, I loved how he wanted to just give them all the things that could help them grow, but he saw what it led to, and it led to them destroying each
Mhm.
other in such a massive way, and him feeling the response and responsibility of the atomic bomb that hit Japan, seeing that Wade and
Absolutely.
Ajax holding him, and like people are going to probably pick maybe that scene apart, I feel, because of the forced imagery of it, but I still love the storytelling of it, what it means to the character, that I feel like was necessary. And so, yeah, there's definitely story beats there that I think are absolutely crucial, especially for the
Yeah,
characters.
and that's what I've been seeing the most criticism of so
Yeah.
far, is the way they tell the story. A lot of people are not vibing with it, and
Yeah.
that makes me really sad. Because if they get so much negative feedback on that, we probably won't see it again, but I think it was the best way to introduce these characters. I Because going in, it's an ensemble film, I was very nervous. I only expected to care about a couple of these characters, right? You're introducing 10 brand new characters. And they definitely didn't do it perfectly. There's definitely some things you were missing for context with these characters. And I while I'm sad about that, I can't complain too much because you only have so much time, and with 10 characters, 10 brand new characters, that's a lot of material to get through, right? And I think the way they used the different story beats to introduce those characters gave you an emotional background on these characters. You understood how they thought and what their motivations were by being shown it and not being told, like you
Yeah.
said. And so you meet like 3 characters in the past, and then you meet them in the present, and then you meet a couple more characters in the past, and then the present, and it goes on and on like that. And that made me feel so much more connected to them. The one thing that I really wish they said in the film is, of course, we don't meet Makari until pretty late
That's
in this
yeah.
story.
That's gonna be my biggest downers
And
on those. Yeah.
and I saw a post from Marvel's like official Instagram that had like the breakdown of all the characters and all their motivations. And it talked about like Makari, she's a speedster, she's explored every single inch of the earth, got bored, is waiting to explore space, right? And so she's waiting. She's waiting to go home, waiting to explore. But they never said that in the film. That wasn't pointed out. It was just in a an Instagram post from Marvel. Like, that's the only place they put this information, and I feel like you missed out so much about her character by not including that in the film.
Yeah.
Like, why would you have this information and not give it to your audience?
Yeah, I do find the later half of the film, when it comes to bringing in the characters, is probably what I feel is the weakest. I know that you said that you think that it allowed you to digest the characters more, and I think that's true. I think you can have it both ways. You can have it so that way you separate amount of characters, so you get to know this section, and then in the later half you get to know this section. But the later half of this section, I feel, is not as strong, because you have to get to that third act. You have to finish the movie, and you don't know those characters as well as you should have. Like Kingo, for instance, which is a character which, when he gets to his decision, which I think a lot of people are not going to like, is he chooses to abstain and just not be a part of the final battle.
He just leaves. He wasn't part of that final battle.
Because
Absolutely.
he is conflicted between someone that he looks up to and is doing a movie about, versus the other people that he believes that are right as well, and he just can't make decisions. So he leaves. He's just like, I just can't do it. I feel like that's what makes his decision strong. And as much as I want him to be there at the final battle, I understand where he's coming from.
For his character.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the second act for me was the weakest.
Yes.
Because you had that strong opening act. You meet like a majority of the characters, right? And then that second act, they're trying to simultaneously explain like what happened with Adrak and what's going on with these characters you haven't met yet. And I wish that was a little more balanced. I feel like it was too strongly what's going on with Icarus and Adrak, and not enough let's meet the rest of these characters.
And Festos too is so shortchanged in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah. Like Festos, I think, hit more for me because we saw that moment. We saw
true.
him trying to give them this idea, and then you see later what humanity does with technology and how that affects him, and then you see him being like, I can't do this. And so you had that connection, but you didn't get that with all the other characters. Like, his time was much shorter, but I still really cared about him.
No, true. And even at the end of the day, as much as I wish there was more there, and I want more and I crave for more, that makes me more excited for the sequels, obviously.
Exactly.
So wherever they end up going, I'm excited to still explore and visit those characters, whatever, Makari is doing or whatever Festus is doing. And even Druid, who at first, immediately, because like I said, I saw the trailers and I was like, I don't like you. And I know I'm not supposed to like you, so I'm trying not to like you. But you have a swagger to you that I enjoy, that's Scottish as well. And you have that black fucking jacket and you're kind of cool. And I like you. Damn it. Like, that's what happens.
Yes.
It's like, you're not the bad guy. God damn it. It's like, I was trying to put you in a corner.
Right. Yeah. I fell in love with these characters so much. And obviously I have so much love for all of them. But Makari, Fastos, and Druid are the dream team. I've been calling them the dream team. I love them. I want the three of them together all the time. The three of those characters just hit me so hard emotionally in seeing like the different aspects of them that I see in myself. And like, I just love those characters so much. Like, those three are perfect and I want them together all the time.
So I'm looking right now because I want to know, like, where can I find this man and where can I see more of his work? Druid is going to be in, of course, The Batman. He's going to be an officer. And he is in the movie Dunkirk, which I was cleaning up my little thing here. And so I have a copy of it. I'm like, I haven't watched Dunkirk yet, so let's see what this is all about. So yeah, we'll check that out. But yeah, which, by the way, did you know that the director said that the reason she like casts people is from movies that Christopher Nolan does. So
I didn't see that.
So he's in Dunkirk, and then also Harry Styles is in Dunkirk. And that's why she's like, oh, he'll be perfect for Star Fox. So.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're gonna have to digest that. But yeah, where else would you want to go? Do you want to go like character individually, like some other characters here, or?
Unless you have any final thoughts about the story, I think we should dive into each character individually. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's kick it off with Cersei. What are your thoughts on Cersei?
Cersei's fun because her power is so adaptable to anything, but you'd first like it's funny when you have an individual person on this team. I said this in the other podcast. I feel like you, if they're not teamed up with her or someone else, you can absolutely lose in a fight. Like, don't get me wrong. However, she is definitely probably a very vulnerable character, and you see her vulnerable throughout the entirety of the film, except for two major instances where she comes together and makes things happen. And that, of course, is when she turns the deviant. We even talk about the bad guys, because let's be honest, they're probably the weakest thing in the movie. But even though they have, because they're like, there's a moment of them being interesting, and then they cut that off very quickly. Where she turns it into a tree. And you see that, oh man, she can actually be, somewhat. The reason why I feel like Ajax eventually picks her as the leader, and then her coming in and doing the beginning of the Unimind as well, being able to do that. As a character, you see so much of the world through her eyes, and she's definitely the main character of the film. You see the love of humanity through her as well. You see the love of, obviously, of actual love. You see that part of it. You see the familiar love of her crying over Ajax's body, who, is, on the ground there. And you see her sort of
Sprite.
Yeah, she's basically semi-mother figure to Sprite during this time, because everyone else seemingly abandoned Sprite. What I also found interesting was she sort of becomes the mother role of taking over from Ajax in a way, and having to guide everyone, and she makes the biggest decisions. And a lot of people look to her for guidance, very much as as a teacher. So I very much found that interesting. I'm very glad that Emma Chan had a second opportunity to be in the MCU. Luckily, if you're painted, if you're painted blue, you can come back as somebody else. Which, of course, them being robots, I was like, oh yeah, you can totally get away with being another person in this universe. So maybe you were modeled after her somehow. I don't know how that would work.
I'm glad they did not shy away from that. They were like, this is the perfect person for this character, and who cares? Who cares if we've seen her before?
Yeah.
It works. It feels completely different. There was no point that I was like, oh, that's
not even. I didn't even think about it. Not even for a second.
I didn't think about it until way after that. I was like, oh right.
It made me want to watch Marvel. It made me want to watch Captain Marvel again. Just be like, oh yeah, you were in that movie.
I love that movie. Captain Marvel's my favorite Marvel movie. I don't know if I've said that anywhere before, but that was one of the first movies I watched when I started getting into the MCU, and it's the one that really made me fall in love with the MCU. So it holds such a special place in my heart. But yeah, no, I 100% agree on everything you said. I think you covered all my thoughts on Cersei, like the way she perceives the world, and how she leads the team, and how her love of humanity is really one of the strongest things about her character. And I think that's really beautiful, that she is very powerful. We don't see the fullest extent of her power.
No.
And, there's definitely room for her to scale up in power. But the fact that her love is her biggest power. Like, you see that with, her love of humanity, her love for Icarus. You see that so many times throughout the movie. And her character is really why I went, oh, this is a love story.
For sure. When she turned that bus into flowers, I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's so cool.
That was so beautiful, right?
Yes.
Okay. We've already talked about Icarus quite a bit.
Yeah, we established that. I think we established pretty much everything we have to say about Icarus. Icarus, you're cool until you weren't, but then you're cool too. I don't know.
I love.
I'm conflicted on you.
I knew there was going to be a traitor as soon as I saw Ajax was dead. I was like, oh, they're doing the storyline where the Prime Eternal dies, somebody's betraying them, whatever. And so the whole first watch, I was looking for the clues to put together who's the traitor. And so when I realized that, I was like, oh, okay, I know where we're going with Icarus. So I really loved his character. My friend Marissa did not see this coming at all and was utterly betrayed by Icarus and was heartbroken that he turned out to be the traitor. And I'm just having so much fun watching all of her TikToks Go follow Miss Abobosa on TikTok. But all of her TikToks about Icarus and how utterly heartbroken she is about his character
I gotta watch
has
that.
been they're so funny. It's been the highlight of my weekend since this movie came out.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think that's everything
Yeah.
for Icarus.
Athena?
All right,
Want to go with Athena?
let's talk about Athena.
Yeah.
Wow. My first time watching this movie, I didn't know how to feel about Athena. I was like, she has so much potential and they nerfed her
Hmm.
so quickly. But on the second watch, I really appreciated her journey, her
Yes.
story arc. That she was this fierce, incredibly powerful warrior. You know, she's the goddess of Athens. She's this incredibly strong, powerful woman who has such a love for her duty as well. You see that in Babylon, I believe,
Yeah.
that she's not taking a break. Like it's her duty to go out and fight, and that's all she cares about. And then when you see her character start to break, when you start to see those memories coming back,
Yeah, the Mad
and
Weary is what they refer to it.
yeah, Mad
Before
Weary,
you know what
which
it
is
actually
her
is. Yeah.
yeah, her memories of previous existences, right? And how uh, her character has like she had never felt vulnerable before that, and the way that completely changed her as a person was so interesting to me.
No, for sure.
I
Thinking about the character and watching it back and hearing other people talk about it, the thing that I immediately thought about it was someone who, is like a painter or someone who has a mass amount of skill, and then they have to start overcoming the fact that they're deteriorating because of a disease of some sort, and they're losing like some sort of Alzheimer's or something like that. Like it had that to me very much written on it. Someone actually, I think it was the Kind of Funny group. I think Nick said it, where she is sort of like a failing hard drive, where it is something that's been formatted so many times that eventually, it's going to fragment and mess itself up. And that felt so tragic in terms of her having to deal with that, and eventually it maybe take her over. But I love that she had a support system and a loved one who cared about her so much that he would stay with her for as long as he possibly could. And for him to do that, and I love it's the two strongest heroes as well. There's so
I
much
thought that made
strength
such
there.
an interesting dynamic
Yeah.
where they're both so incredibly powerful and they care about each other so much. And then her redemption, I think, was
Yes.
one of the most powerful points in the cave. Points in the movie where she's in the cave with the deviant
Hmm.
and she gets that moment of redemption and she gets to be the strong, powerful, intuitive warrior that she is. I thought that arc was just so beautiful.
Yeah, no, definitely as a character, and I was wondering what they were going to do with Angelina Jolie and where she was going to lead, because I was like, are they going to keep her on in the MCU, because they got rid of Selma Hayek pretty early on, and I was wondering if that was an obvious choice of just the fact that she's really high profile. They kind of want to get her in and get her out, and that'll be the end of it. I was wondering if that was going to end up happening there, where Athena was going to die, and I'm glad that she doesn't. She does get her redemptive arc. The deviant part, we'll talk about the deviants, I think, at the very end, because I think they are the weakest part of the film. But I'm glad that they gave her a story that I enjoyed, especially with conjoining with, I think the next person that we should talk about is then Gilgamesh. My God, I love that man. Bias alone
So
from him, just his introduction to being this just man walking with these big ass arms, like I was like big guys doing right, and then but the fact that his whole power is that he punches the living shit out of you, but he's so tender and caring for Athena and learns all these wonderful crafts and techniques and food and fermenting beer and
yeah,
I want to eat his food so bad.
the way they played with his character, I think, was so interesting because you see a lot of the MCU are big, bulky men who are strong fighters, and that's their personality, right? They're the strong man, they're the epitome of toxic masculinity in so many cases that we've already seen. And it was so refreshing to see this strong, powerful warrior who also had such a tender, caring side to him, where he wasn't afraid to, have arts and crafts and be baking with his apron and then being like completely laughing off Sprite turning him into a baby. And I thought that was just so refreshing
Oh man,
and so, like, amazing to see his
you're
character.
so right. Because so many other movies would have just been like, "Oh, this is awful," blah 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 blah. No, he's just laughing about it. Like
He
he
just
knows.
laughs it
Yeah,
off.
he's part of the family here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you ridiculous person, you. Yeah, no, Gilgamesh, taken from us way too goddamn soon, and I know that we have to kill off some of these characters for there to be any stakes, and sadly, he was the one that had to be chosen. I don't want any of them to
I wanna
go. I just didn't want him to go either.
I wanna talk about that point because it was really interesting to see a male character killed off to propel a female character's story.
Yes.
So often we see it in the reverse, where we fridge the woman
Hmm.
and that's to propel the male story. And it was so interesting to see that reversed. And if you look at the 10, right?
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's 10 brain and 10 brawn,
I
but it's
believe something
also,
like that.
or
Yeah.
5 and 5, sorry.
Yeah.
But it's also evenly split gender wise, right?
Well, I'm looking at the cast right now, so we got let's see. I think it tends more female than male, if I had to be honest. One,
All
two,
right.
three.
But if we look at who they kill off, they killed off 2 men and 1 woman, right?
No,
And so
you're right.
that
5-5.
was,
There is 5-5.
yeah. So I was really excited to not see, coming off of like What If, where we saw in the Doctor Strange, the
Yeah.
Dark Doctor Strange episode, where we saw Christine fridged a million times. And that was so exhausting and so tiring to come into this movie where they're like 2 men killed off. And like obviously they had to kill off Adrak because that's the whole plot of the movie is she
Yes.
said, what are we gonna do?
Which originally was a male
Um,
character, is what
mhm.
beautifully done. You know what? I think this is a great point.
So many of these
Yeah, that's
are
correct.
male characters.
That's correct.
Makari as well.
Sprite as well.
Spread as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
like so many of these characters are men in the comics and and usually portrayed white
And
in
honestly,
the drawings.
doesn't lose anything in terms of
Absolutely not.
doesn't lose anything.
In fact, it makes it so much stronger.
It does.
Because you see these characters fit into completely different cultures so much more easily.
Yes, 100%. I agree with that.
And so
Good.
I think this is a great example of when you diversify your cast, it doesn't have to feel shoehorned. It felt so authentic that all of these characters looked different, sound different, seemed as if they're from different points in time.
And it just makes more sense of them being these alien beings that come to Earth, and they're not just all blanket white men. It's the fact that
Right?
yes, they're going to integrate in the world that we live
They
in.
need to
This is the world.
assimilate in
Yes.
every different type of environment.
Yeah.
And you can't be all white men to do that.
No, not at all. I think that's a good jumping off point to go into Ajax then. I think we can talk about Ajax.
Absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of Salma Hayek as a very young age boy.
Incredible.
And I'm so glad that she is. You can go left and right when I think with Selma Hayek and characters. She can either be very bombastic and loud, or she can be stoic and I think I think she has a funness to her still, even if we see her very slightly. But at the same time, there's still a motherliness to her that just carries on through, even to her end, in my opinion. Like just her, but her inevitable demise. But yeah, no, I love me some Salma Hayek, and I think that just for the small moments that we get with her, she added so much to the film, even all the way up
She
to the
was
end.
one of those characters that we saw so few moments with, but every single time she was on screen, she had such a strong presence.
Yeah,
And that's something that I think is so valuable. Like, she felt like the leader, she felt like the Prime Eternal. And even though we knew she was dead from very early on, seeing those flashbacks, seeing those historical moments, she held such a presence and just such a phenomenal job. this is the one character that I'm heartbroken we're not
Yeah.
gonna see more of, and I knew that. I knew we weren't gonna see more of her, but she was just so good.
I
So good in
never thought I'd
everything.
ask for more flashbacks, but please give us more flashbacks of Mary
Right?
Jane.
Like, I wouldn't want more flashbacks pretty much ever, but
Yes.
I want more Selma Hayek, and I think there's a way you could do it with, what's going on, but
Yeah.
we'll
No.
see. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. I did like Sprite, assuming her at the end there, and I did not. I'm a dum dum. I didn't think it was. I was like, oh, she's seeing her, and I'm like, no, wait, I'm an idiot. It's like, yeah.
I remember watching that, and I immediately like, oh, Sprite, no.
Yep. And I think that's a good transition to talking about Sprite.
Let's talk about Sprite because okay, um, I I'm currently rewatching 911, and this will relate. Let me get a moment to get there.
Do you think?
Okay, so
Your
I'm
show.
rewatching 911 right now, and one of the characters is a kid, and it's played by, I don't know how to say their last name. It's played by Gavin McHugh.
Okay.
I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyways, Gavin McHugh, incredible. I think he's like 11. Wonderful actor, so talented, so cute, amazing. Love him. His sister, Sprite. And so when I saw that, I lost my mind because I love Gavin. He's so talented. He's like a phenomenal actor. And I know like kid actors, that's always like a tricky
Yeah.
situation when you have kid actors. But he's so talented and I like just appreciate him so much. So when I saw that this was being played by his sister, I got so excited. I loved this character. I loved the actor playing her. This character was one that really hit me. I thought their interpretation of Sprite was so great, and I was
Oh my
so
good
excited
God.
because
I'm looking at a photo of her when she was in San Diego when they announced the Eternals, and she is so young in comparison.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that she grew up during this movie. So wild. Because, not to cut you off, but she definitely plays a character that imbues a older person in a small person's body. Like definitely plays an older person. But yeah.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts about this character. But yeah, how old is she now?
I'm on her IMDb right now. She is, hold on. They don't give you that information like right up front anymore, which is silly. She just says was born, and that's it. That's nothing else.
She was born 2005. I
Oh,
can't do
God.
math. That's what right? That's
16 now.
16? Cool. I can do math. Look at
I
that.
think it's 16. Yeah.
So like, 14, 15. when
Yeah,
this
she was
was
like 12.
filming,
Yeah.
playing a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
12-ish.
12-ish.
Thousands of year old.
Yes.
12.
12-ish.
But yeah, so talented, and that family just incredibly talented. But that portrayal of such an old soul in such a young body, and that conflict was just done so masterfully.
Yeah.
And seeing, a character that's been around for thousands of years and has more experiences than anybody would know in a lifetime, but being stuck at this eternal young age that she never gets to experience the world as an adult, and the way they play with that and the way they play with relationships in regards to Sprite is just so interesting.
The closest allegory to that I could think of for the character like this is Kirsten Dunst in American Vampire, where she plays a kid turned into a vampire and does not age until very much later in that movie. And yeah, her conflict that she's had in that film very much mirrors what goes on in this one, and you see that in the one thing I will say that I wish was maybe a little bit more developed, or maybe if I watch it again, maybe I'll see it more, is her connection to Icarus, because I felt the later half turn was so fast that I did not see it coming. Like, oh my God, that she's just all of a sudden with Icarus. So I'm
I
gonna
will say that was one of the things that I picked up so much more on the second
okay.
watch through.
So yeah, I'm gonna
Knowing that was coming, looking for those glances,
yeah
those
yeah yeah.
looks, those moments. That was something that completely went over my head the first time,
Yeah,
and the second time I was really looking for it.
that's what I'm excited to see again, and when I watch this film again. So that is something that wanted just a little bit more of, and hopefully I will by that choice. But yeah, I like you're saying, like, to have this person who has, and it's not the very stereotypical you think about this character, because this, of course, in myth is supposedly the mischievous one, the one that casts like the deviousness in certain stories.
Mhm.
They are, yes, they're devious in certain ways, but they're more subdued than, like, I'm just gonna be a tricker person, like, like
Yeah.
just really goofy.
Definitely the archetype of the trickster, but
Yes,
in a much more downplayed way in this.
definitely a more downplayed way, but making their story tragic in the sense of they are someone trapped in a small body, and why were they made that way? And I love that they asked that question when they learned the secrets of everything.
Mhm.
Like, it's dark and
Mhm.
it tragic if you think about it for more than a few seconds, and how this person has to live with their life. And yeah, no, I think that Sprite is definitely a more nuanced character that I'm glad is still with the team, even though she did some really fucked up shit. She straight up stabs Cersei like deep.
Yeah.
But they're like, yeah, still hang out. We're gonna take. I think I do love that her punishment is she has to go to school. That to me is
Yeah.
the funny part. It's
I
like, you still gotta go to
that
school.
felt so in character. That was so
Yeah.
good. And because you see, like, Kingo has so much, like, appreciation and so much familial love for Sprite, and to see that through how that changes throughout the film, and that end where Kingo's like, "You never thought you needed that, did you?"
Yeah.
It's just so good, and yeah, I love that character. I can't wait to see what goes on with that.
I love she got hit with a
Um,
rock. That was funny. Kingo, I think. I think that I love that we have this
I
like natural, like we mentioned somebody, you're like, yeah, let's move on to them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's talk
Kingo.
about Kingo, and then we can get to the dream team because we
Yes.
haven't talked about any of
No,
the
the
dream
dream team.
team.
That's true. Yes.
I love. I think I mentioned this earlier. I love that Sprite wasn't the movie star. I love that it was Kingo. I think that makes for such a interesting story between the two of them,
Yeah.
having that a little bit flipped. And I'm just so in love with this actor. Like, it was so it, w- it was the comedic release of the movie for a lot of it, right? Especially with the valet and having
Yeah.
those interactions, but also saying that reverence for
Hmm.
humanity in such a different way than any of the other characters. And, you know, seeing humans as fallible, but still having that appreciation. I feel like Cersei kind of reveres humans and doesn't see any of their faults. I don't know if you got that impression, but that's the feeling I got
No, for sure.
from her character.
No, absolutely. But I do love that, like the scene where, and I will say, I know that some people had some reservations of the Bollywood stuff. I think it's done tastefully in this film and doesn't
Mhm.
go too crazy on any direction. You get the small scene, you get the joke immediately that it's about Icarus. You see the funny logo of what is it, Shadow Warrior 3, which I think is funny.
Yeah.
But the
I think
scene
it
that
was 2, but
yeah,
it's semantics.
it's semantics either way. But I love the scene where he sees the crew outside of the doors and he talks about, I'm responsible for them.
I
Like,
can't let them down.
I can't
Right.
let them
Yeah,
down.
that
And I
was
love that.
so powerful.
Yeah.
Also, I
Yeah.
love that music.
Yes.
That the music for the Bollywood scene. Oh, so good. I
We can talk about we can talk about forever because the music is fantastic and done by the composer from Game of Thrones.
I will just
So
say,
good.
I could talk a whole episode about the music, but all I'll say, I was blown away by the soundtrack, the different songs they used, the timing of them fit so well, and the score. The score's like use of those themes and the reoccurring leitmotifs was done so well that usually when you're watching a movie, it is a testament to the quality of the score if you don't remember it.
Mhm.
But and that's just like a common thing. Like a good score is forgettable. You don't want it to stand out because if it stands out, it takes over the scene or it's bad. But so I always listen so carefully with, what limited remaining hearing I have left, I'm so focused on the score and looking for those leitmotifs, those reoccurring themes, that I was absolutely blown away by the score in the best way possible, and I don't think many people are gonna talk about it 'cause it blends in so perfectly that,
Yeah.
people aren't gonna remember it, which is good. You're not supposed to remember that score, you're supposed to remember the emotions it makes you feel.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the soundtrack, incredible. The score, beautiful. I have to stop myself now or I'll ramble for
Yeah, that's true.
hours.
I want an Oscar for sound design for sure. Okay. All right, dream team time. Let's go for it.
Dream
Who do you
team.
want to start with the dream team?
I wanna start with Makari,
Okay, let's
selfishly.
just do it. Let's go it because oh my god.
I Oh my god, I love Lauren Rudolph. Such a talented actor. I appreciate her work so much. She's such a great representation of the deaf community, and you don't often see that. There's, a couple deaf folks who are very well known in broader hearing culture, and they're not necessarily always the deaf community's favorite people. And so it's really interesting to see this dichotomy of very famous deaf people to hearing people and very famous deaf people to deaf people. And I Lauren Rudolph definitely falls in the latter. Like, she is so well known, so well revered, and to see her as such a talented actor coming into the MCU, being such a great representation of our community in this way is so incredibly powerful. And I got emotional at my first screening because it was the deaf community. It was all deaf people, and there's two different families with little kids, and I love deaf kids. They're my favorite. And one of them, was when we were waiting in line, ran up to me, was so excited, pointed at my ear, and was like, "You're deaf," and I was like, "Yeah," and then pointed at his ear and was like, "I'm deaf," and that kid has like so much joy and enthusiasm, and knowing that that kid got to see himself represented on screen by a signing deaf character, by a signing deaf actor, was it just broke my heart into pieces. Like, I melted knowing that that kid was getting to see representation like never before. And I know I'm just ranting about the actor, but the character, I think, was such a great choice. What a character change from what we see in the comics, right? It's some white dude, right? Hearing white dude being played by a deaf woman of color. And that was just such an incredible choice. She's fun, she's mischievous. I I saw an interview where Lauren was like, if any of the other characters you wanted to interact with in the MCU, and the first answer was Loki, because you have like that trickster god, that mischievous like Makari. I think that would be such an interesting pairing. But like, I just this character does so much for me and for my community that like I don't have any more words. That's
I did want to ask because as well as their representation in the film for themselves. So I was going to ask you, what about the other characters when they're responding to them? Because I know that that can be triggering for a lot of people, or how that go. Like, how would you say that this movie does when characters are speaking to them, or when they're actually attempting sign language as well? Because I noticed that Kingo and I think Druid does it at some point as well.
Mhm. This is one of the things that after the first viewing, there
Hmm.
was a lot of discussion about how little signing was in this film.
Sure.
And there's two perspectives. There's one where these characters have been together for thousands of years. Of course they're going to know how to communicate. And I get that they like played it off with like she can feel the vibrations. But that's not how you can't understand speech based on vibrations.
Hmm.
You get a lot more context. Like, you can feel like movement and get understanding for the shape of sounds, but you're not getting full access with that. And it I saw a lot of folks who were not happy with how much the other characters were signing,
Hmm.
But if you also look at it from a a, a perspective of so many deaf children are born to hearing parents, like 90%. And of that 90% of hearing parents, 80% of them don't learn sign language. So there is such a small percentage of deaf kids who have hearing parents who have access to language. And so that's a big theme throughout the community. A lot of families don't sign. And looking at this as a family, eh, I totally get that there's so many families that wouldn't learn sign language at all. And I don't know if that was the intent. And that's where I'm hesitant
Sure.
because my first instinct is to say, no, they should have been signing every time she was present. Every time she was in a room, they all should have been signing. That's just how it should be. And that's what I wish was the occurrence. And I don't know if it was purposeful or not, but if you look at the relationships and you look at the characters she's closest to, the characters she's closest to sign more.
True.
So, Fasto signed with
Yes.
Makari, and Druid did as well.
Hmm.
And you see little glimpses of the other characters, just like
One or
one
two.
phrase
Yeah,
or
yeah. Like
whatever.
Kingo, I think,
One
yeah,
or,
does
or
like one or
two.
two. Yeah.
And Kingo as well, right?
Mhm.
But it's really interesting to see. I don't know if it was purposeful that the characters closer signed a little bit more. So I'm hesitant to applaud that, right?
Sure. If I
I don't know if that was the dynamic they were going for, but it resonated with me as a late deaf person with a family who doesn't sign. I understood that so many people don't have families who sign. And so that's kind of the dichotomy there.
Understandable. And I mean, if I had to assume, it was because a lot of the situations that they're in, there's a lot of things where, they're in danger. And so they're like being told to leave. So, I mean, there's stuff like that. But I definitely agree with everything you're saying there. I agree for sure. But as the character, fucking awesome, because this is the coolest
Right?
Flash fight I've ever fucking seen, because holy shit, she beats the fuck out of Icarus, and I've been wanting to say that all weekend, and it was awesome, and I can't tell anybody that,
So
because it's a
good.
fucking spoiler. When I was in a fight on the internet about Flash, I'm like, I want to show you the clip, because I found the clip on Twitter, on TikTok, and I saved it, because she whoops ass. But yeah, no, 100%. I mean, as a character, having be there and this is indicative to what I love about Flash comics and stuff like that, is they, get to a certain point where they, are fast reading books. They're traveling the world. They're seeing everything.
I love that when you first see the domo and she's just flipping
Like,
through them.
yeah, 100%, like something I love from a comic book that is realized here. And for them to be that character, that archetype that I really enjoy, and I think it's fairly fun with people that can read speech, because that you would spend all your time going through and reading all the books and all that, because you have the possibility to do so. And I found that fun with the character. And I mean, my issue with the character is only because they're not on the movie so much. They're very lightly used, but when they're used, they are impactful. And that's why I think I have so much reverence for Makari, because of how she's actively depicted in the movie, for sure, especially in the latter half of the film. So yeah, there's definitely instances where I cannot wait for more of the Dream Team going and doing things with Star Fox in space. Like, I just want to see whatever they do next.
Yeah. I do. I want to give one big applaud to Marvel because it's so often when you see deaf actors in hearing projects, they're not given the support and the access that we deserve, right? And one of the really awesome things that Marvel did is instead of having Lauren Ridolph, the actor, also working as the DSL or the director of ASL or the ASL consultant, they hired somebody else for that
Wow.
position, who happens to be Douglas Ridloff, which is her husband. But he's a phenomenal director of ASL. He's
Yeah.
awesome. He's really experienced in that, and he worked on Eternals and also the upcoming Hawkeye. He was the
Oh, okay,
DSL
great.
on that as well. And so having a person that's not a deaf actor in that position is so vital, and you see the richness of dialogue. You get to see that, when the other characters do sign, it's not because Lauren taught them. It's because somebody else taught them.
Yeah.
And that's so important to have a director of ASL in these projects who, can help. He's also deaf, but also working with the deaf actor to develop the sign names. Like, all the characters have sign names. And to develop that, you really need an outside person. So I want to applaud Marvel for actually going out of their way to do that, because it's so rare to see, especially in hearing projects. So
Fantastic. Let's talk about the second half of Makari, and that, of course, is Druid. What's going on there? What's going on?
Druid. I love this character so much. We talked about it earlier. Like, he's so often the traitor in the storylines.
Yeah.
And I love that they did not go this direction with him. And honestly, I was not expecting to love Druid as much as I did.
Me either.
Just so effortlessly funny of a character, and has these deep emotional moments, like the interaction between Druid and Adrak, where Druid's like, "You're gonna have to kill me to stop me," and that's
Deep.
so
Yeah.
powerful and shows so much about his care and reverence for humanity, and wants to help them be the best they can the only way he can, right?
Yeah.
All of these characters are trying to do their best with what they have. And that plus, the banter, where you get the interaction in, again, I think it's Babylon, between Makari and Druid, where he's like, "You're not supposed to steal."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I won't tell if you won't." And
Yeah.
that, like, those little flirty moments are just so cute, and just
Him
made
and
me
Camille.
so happy.
Him and Camille are also really great. Camille, like, he forgot what he says. Like, Droog leaves, and then he says something. They're just like, he's still an asshole, or he just says something like he's still
Yeah.
a jerk. And then, of course, the best one is at the end. Is it the end? Because I think it's on the ship. I think it's on the Domo. But Makari and him are having somewhat of a moment, and then Kingo sees it and is like, "Is this happening? Is this the thing? I don't like it."
How long has this been going on?
Yeah,
Right?
I don't like it.
I love that. That was another one of my favorite Kingo moments. Like, just so good.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
good.
No, Druid is a underrated character only because you were absolutely led to believe that he is the bad guy,
yeah.
but 100% wins you over in the end. And you just want good things for all of them. And I think he was a good one. And another person you want good things for, of course, is Fastos. Fastos is another character that we all want good things for.
I'm gonna go on a rant.
There you
down
go.
for that? Okay. So we're coming into this movie, Eternals, right? It's doing legendary things you've never seen before. The amount of diversity in this cast. Wow, look at that. You're getting so many different interactions we've never seen before. Oh, look, we have a sex scene in a Marvel movie. And people are like, okay, that's happening. That's new. You know what people got mad about? They got mad about the tender kiss just because it's between two people. Fuck y'all. If you want to bitch about something, bitch about the sex scene. Do not bitch about the beautiful tender moment between two married people. That just grinded my gears so much. I love this character. I love the story of this character. I love this family that teaches him to believe in humanity again, and such a beautiful family, and so representative of real true interaction, right? You get to see this beautiful and cross-cultural relationship between two men of color, that's so rare to see, with a kid, and they're trying to they have a brown kid, and how that interacts with society, especially in America, where they're hanging out. And just the story of that family is so beautiful and so powerful and so impactful in this film. And it pisses me off that the only takeaway people are getting from this is, oh no, two men kissed.
Right.
Hate to break it to you, it happens all the time.
All the time.
All around the world.
People
constantly.
Kiss all the time.
People kiss all the time.
Right now, someone just kissed. Right now, someone just did that.
Just kissed.
Yeah.
And I
I
know
agree with you.
anybody who's watching this, anybody in our audience isn't one of the people complaining about it. So I know I'm speaking to the choir here. I just had to get that off my chest
No,
because
I agree with
it
you.
just the relationship was so beautiful to me, not just because it's the first, real queer relationship we see in the MCU movies. Like, of course, you see there's queer characters in the broader Marvel stuff, right? You
Yeah.
have the kids in Runaways. You have oh gosh, the two dads from Jessica Jones.
Yes.
I, and and so like we've seen queer characters in Marvel affiliated stuff, but this is the first time it's been canonized in film.
In your face.
It's
Deal
in
with
your
it.
face. And it's so subtle. Like, it's just a beautiful story about a family, and the family itself is so beautiful in this person who sees the worst in humanity, who saw the death and destruction that innovation caused, and has given up hope, meets somebody who changes that, who makes him believe in humanity, that you can love people, and that humans are beautiful and wonderful and deserving of existence,
Yeah.
and reteaches that to this character. And that storyline is just so important and so powerful that you see, and you see that in the comments of I wouldn't change who I am. And that was such a strong sentiment for as being a queer person, coming from a queer character that is also a android, I guess,
Yeah.
who is also talking about it from that perspective of like I wouldn't change who I am, but I also wouldn't change this relationship I have. And that dichotomy I thought was really interesting and really powerful because queer people are going to hear that line and go, that resonates with me. But it also is so indicative of a character on such a deeper level as well, relating to the story. And I thought the way they played with those lines was really interesting because it really enriched the character in such a deeper way.
I agree. I agree with everything you
I
say.
feel like I've just been rambling.
Hey, no, not at all. I think you have a lot to say about the film, and I think that's why this will be probably the longest episode that we do on the show. But ultimately, yeah, I agree with you saying, and I want to give props to Marvel and Disney, I guess, at a certain point. I don't really want to give Disney a lot of love, but Disney gets
I
part
don't
of
want to
it.
give them.
I know.
But
For not allowing the scene to be cut overseas, therefore it will not be shown overseas. So fuck you. So that's a big one. The other thing
that's
is
the one thing they did right.
that
They stuck to it.
they stuck to it, which I'm very happy about that. Unlike other things that they've done in cutting out scenes. The other thing that I do want to say though, this is primarily the only time that I've seen a Marvel film that gives you three options to watch. Gave you a second option to watch the film, which was in closed captions. I've never seen other films that offer this
Open captions.
right, because is it on the by the way, when you watched it, was it on the screen or was it a device?
So I had two experiences. The
Okay.
first time I watched with open captions, which means it's on the screen. It's
Got
hard
it.
coded in. Everybody sees it.
Okay.
The second time I watched. I went to a
holder?
theater that I haven't gone to in a while, and they didn't have the cup holder one, which is what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So it's a little box, and it displays the captions. They had the glasses, which I had never used before.
Interesting.
And so they're glasses, and they have a little laser that shows the captions on the glasses, which took me so long to get used to.
Sure.
By the end of it, and once I kind of figured out how to work with them, I really enjoyed them. They are a terrible option, especially for like deaf-blind folks, people who wear glasses. I had to take my hearing aid off because it was getting caught up with the going over my ears. But I really appreciated that if I moved my head, I wasn't losing the captions.
Okay.
Because with the box, you have to set it up at such a specific angle or you can't see them at all. So you have to have it very specific so that you can see it. And if I like moved my head or lifted my head up or whatever, I couldn't see the captions at all.
Got
So
it.
having them always on the glasses, really great. Except for I noticed while I was watching this that I often have my head tilted to the side.
I do that too.
And so the captions were crooked. And
I
so
do
I
that
finally
too.
ended up instead of having them sit at the bottom of my vision, I actually put them at the top. So you can like adjust
That's
the
interesting.
display for where they are. And so I had them pointed at the top of my glasses. But yes, so one of the things that often is talked about is the deaf community is when there's movies with deaf actors, they can't just go to a screening of their movie and
Yeah.
have access. And recently, earlier this year, Coda, which is an Apple Plus movie, did
Yeah.
a limited run in theaters, and every single showing of that film had open captions regardless. There was not a single showing of that film without open captions. And
Gotcha.
that was a landmark opportunity. And then coming up, this, I'm pretty sure it was just AMC, but AMC had way more options for open caption
Yeah, and
showings.
that's what I
It
went to
wasn't
when I
all of
saw it.
them, but it was way more than you typically see. And so you're starting to see more and more showings with open captions. They're usually at like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I figure.
Like, usually there will be a single showing with open captions, and that's it. And they're impossibly hard to attend. They're at poor times. They're either like Sunday mornings or like middle of the week mornings. And it's a pain because I can't just go to a movie. Also, when I went the second time with no open captions, I took them so long to figure out what a captioning device was
Yeah.
that I was just getting so frustrated. Like, movie theaters don't have trainings about this, and it's so frustrating. So
Yeah.
seeing
That's why I brought it up, because I used to work at the
AMC
movie theater and at
Yeah,
that
for
theater
sure.
specifically, and I remember having to do that and give those to the customers as well. But they're absolutely right. There wasn't training on it, and like majority of the time, we don't even know how they work. We just know that they have a signal that connects to the box that's up top, and we hand it to the customer. Like, hopefully
And
they're
there's
charged.
so many times there's so many times that they're not charged, or that the person who set it up wrong and I have to
Yes.
redo it, or they'll forget to turn on the signal from the actual movie,
And you
and
get a totally different movie.
and so it's not getting I'm watching the captions of the next movie
Good
over
spoilers
because they
from other
haven't turned
movies.
off.
Awful.
Yeah, I remember I can't remember what film it was, but I went to see a movie and they just didn't flip the switch, so it wasn't being transmitted,
Got it.
which means we're like, either they'll die halfway through or they won't work, but you don't know until the movie starts because none of the previews have captions.
Yeah.
And so then you're getting up in the middle, and it's just so frustrating experience. So yes, big shout out to AMC for doing more open caption. I wish more of the different theater showings did it. But it's progress. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing it up, 'cause
Progress
I wanted to
is
talk
being
about
made.
that. Progress has been made.
Yeah, no, and in progress obviously is with Fastos as a character that allows us to proceed because he can develop obviously these amazing things, and ultimately becomes the biggest component of how we deal with the ending of the movie. He's key. I mean, without him, they wouldn't be able to do it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So definitely love that he was such a landmark character for both the purpose of the film, but also as a character. So that's pretty much where I
I
have
think
it.
the only things we haven't covered are
The Deviants.
Kit Harington, the Deviants, and Harry Styles.
Okay, I'll go really quick on the Deviants. They suck. They're the least interesting thing in the
fine.
movie.
I will say, oh god, what's his name? Starts with an A.
Crow. Oh,
Big dude.
A. Ooh.
Yeah, the dude in the sky, the celestial.
Oh, Asham.
Yeah.
Ashim.
So
Ashim. Yeah.
I don't know how to say it.
Ashen.
But that character, I kind of feel like was the villain all along.
Sure.
The Deviants were fine. It was interesting that they were developing again. Like,
They
Whatever.
had
They were
a
fine. They were
they,
a necessary antagonist.
they
They
had
were
an
just there.
idea that was interesting, which was the fact that once they killed an Eternal, they were beginning sentience, which to me I felt
Mhm.
was actually going to lead in how Thanos came to be, because
Mhm.
in the comics, if I'm not mistaken, he has like a deviant gene, and that's why he turns purple. So I thought that was like, oh, this is like a way to explain that, and they really don't do anything with it. To me, it's sort of like a waste to have Bill Skarsgård in your movie at all. But thank God it's a CG character, and you can put him in anywhere else. So please put Bill Skarsgård anywhere else. He was not well used in this film, as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
Because they just seem like once we get to the end of like what we got to do, which is has nothing to do with the deviants at all. It's really just I don't even remember how the I almost said Tidius. I don't know his name. The name of the celestial that's in the
I don't
planet.
remember his
Tidmut
English
or
name,
something
but I
like that.
remember his sign.
Okay.
Tiamat.
Tiamat,
Tiamat.
Tiamat,
Tiamat.
which I
Yeah.
think was told during a flashback or something like that. So, that's the only thing that was like prevalent of the movie. So the deviants just took us total side thing, and I just didn't care at a certain point. Fucking Kit Harington. He's not in this movie a lot, but when he's in it,
When he is, it's great.
he's great. I love that there's a great moment of it's it's Jon Snow and Robb Stark in between Cersei.
He goes, "You're the pilot?"
Yeah, you're the pilot, and you get this is funny because the last time,
It's Cersei and
yeah,
brothers.
the last time they saw each other was in season 1 of Game of Thrones. They've never seen each other since. And one of the things he says to him is, "You look good in black," or something like that. It's like, I guess black is my color, and he's of course going to be a character called the Black Knight, which I thought was cool. So very very cool there. His post credit scene, of course, yeah, I think I already described it. Very excited to see where he ends up. I'm very curious if he's going to get a full costume or what that's going to do. But please, yeah, if he's teaming up with Blade, I'm excited for the Blade movie. That's all I can say.
Awesome.
Because it doesn't sound like it's going to be. And again, the start of the show is our very first episode, which we didn't even talk about. Thank you so much for everybody who watched it. It was a nice response. Was Blade, and that is very much a grounded story of like neon city vampires and shit like that. This hopefully will have some more medieval stuff, which would be kind of cool. Just a totally different place for Blade to be in. So I'm totally cool with that. And then of course, the show stealer of the hour, of course.
I have one more rant. I promise you, it's my last Eternals rant. My friend Liz, who is incredible, awesome person, who is a big Swiftie, a big Harry Styles fan, and a big Marvel fan, who makes content around all of these things, back in like May, made a video about how she thought that Harry Styles was gonna be in this movie and got obliterated, torn to shreds by toxic fanboys who were just being absolutely awful about this. And because she was like lining up like dates with where he was with like music and touring and whatever and the filming, and she put this together, and people were absolute shit to her about it. And then when we got the leak, I was, very skeptical because anything that leaks, I'm like, we'll see, right? When we got that leak, there was a lot of female creators who were talking about how we said something about this months ago and nobody believed it until a man said it. And that is so indicative of like the culture of MCU fans and how there are such a strong, great, amazing, open-minded group of fans that are the vocal minority. And then you have the loud, toxic fanboys who want to tear everybody to shreds and gatekeep and don't want this singer in your Marvel movie. Fuck you. Alright? That's my rant. Treat people better. Be nicer to creators. If you disagree, you can do it respectfully. You don't have to be an asshole. That's my rant for this movie.
I agree with this rant. Very much so. Yeah. Harry Styles is in this movie, and he looks like the character that I researched before after watching the movie, which I was like, who is this character? I knew nothing of Thanos' brother,
Right.
and just looking at and finding out what his powers are, and I'm like, I can see that guy being that guy. Like I've seen him
Right?
on many TikTok clips because I listened to his music. I'm not the most breakout fan of him, but to be able to see
Me
a
neither.
character to come to life in the way that he does, I think, oh, he looks exactly what I would think, and he has that swagger when he first appears. He's introduced with another character played by Pee Wee. Which, did you know who the voice was?
I did not, but it was. I love that character. That was one of my favorite moments. This is stumbling and drunk, being like, "I'm not doing that drunk again."
Yeah.
Who's that voice?
So he's been in the MCU already as multiple characters. You might
Love that.
you might recognize him as the Shield officer on Agents of Shield, who had multiple brothers and was killed off in one of the seasons, and it is Patton Oswalt.
Oh my gosh!
He's also MODOK in the
love
Hulu show.
him.
Yeah. He's Pee Wee. Yeah, he plays the voice of Pee Wee, which I was like, I recognize that voice. Who's that voice? And then, I immediately clicked in my mind that it was.
I knew MODOK was the same as the Shield. I didn't realize. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
awesome! I love that.
So, again, you can be in the MCU already and be a total other character, which is totally awesome. Which still means Agents of Shield is
We've
canon.
seen that once with the principal who was
Yes, who was the other.
great grandson of the Howling Commandos,
Yes,
right?
which was also
Marina?
Harita, which was also awesome. That was a great callback that I'm happy that they were able to bring that back. So, absolutely,
I really enjoy seeing them do that in completely different ways. So you have like an actor play a same character that's related, and then you have completely different species.
Yeah.
And then you have like voice. I love that they're not shying away from reusing actors while still getting a lot of new talent
Yes.
in and older talent. One thing we didn't talk about is the age range in this film and how so often older women in Hollywood are just thrown into like a like old lady role, right? And we see so many multiple women like over 50 for the actors
Yes.
who are playing strong badass characters. And that's one thing also that is really important, that Marvel's not afraid to take these actors that would normally get shoved into much more side roles because they're not considered like young and pretty anymore or whatever, when they look great, they're doing great, they're fantastic actors.
I think
this movie really exciting.
This movie does suffer from that with Ajax, and that it's Salma Hayek playing that character. But I think to counter that is with Athena's character being Angelina Jolie, which usually would be sort of the forefront of something. But she's a character that I think is well rounded and doesn't have to be like the focus. She is a major part of the team, but isn't like, I'm in charge. She is part of the team as a whole, not like I am the key person here. And I thought that was interesting.
Right.
For sure. For sure.
Exactly.
Okay, so I believe we pretty much covered the gamut of this movie. I mean, the only thing I probably want to ask next is, where do you think this story is going to go with the remaining group that we have? I mean, Ashen, I can't say his name. Ashen basically kidnaps a group of the Eternals, which is Kingo, Phastos, and Gemma Chan's Cersei, and basically says that, hey, we're going to come back and judge this planet, but we're going to go ahead and review if this place is worthy. And then he just bolts away. Immediately when I saw him, I was like, holy shit, that's like Galactus level worth of craziness that I'm seeing a giant, like, that's the first thing that popped in my mind. I'm like, is this going to be their way of introducing this sort of Galactusness into this world? And is Galactus going to be a thing, or is it going to be Slash? I'm curious of like how that works. I never thought I would see that imagery, but it was depicted in this movie. But where do you think that story is going to go? And then as well as where do you think that the Star Fox crew is going to go?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you have like these three different groups, right? You have the folks on Earth, you have the folks who are going to be, with what's his face?
Star Fox. Eros.
Yes, thank you. And then you have the group that is with the Celestials on wherever this fake Olympus is.
Yeah.
Um and I'm really interested. I want to see all of these groups in completely different contexts. I want to see Eternals in other movies that aren't just about the Eternals, right?
Hmm.
Because I think you're going to see a really interesting dynamic that you mentioned before. These characters are not impervious. They are very weak on their own, and they're
Yeah.
strongest when they're together. And right now, you have them split up into very different groups that are, fairly balanced within the groups between their powers,
Yeah.
but significantly weaker because they're all separated. And I'm really interested to see how that ties into already existing Marvel projects and how they're going to permeate through the rest of the MCU. And I don't see us getting another big Eternals movie for a while,
Yeah.
but I want to see these characters in completely different contexts.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where are we going to see a lot of these characters going forward, because as much as I'm like, okay, it would make sense to be connected with Guardians of the Galaxy, but then like Guardians of the Galaxy has been written for a long time, and then for them to include this, like I just don't see it. Maybe post credits, but I just don't see them connected in that story, and that's the only other real space story that we got going on, other than of course, Love and Thunder. But I also don't necessarily see them going there. Maybe for a cameo, but like there
That's
has
the
to,
thing. We're
and,
looking
and
at
TV
like,
shows maybe too. I'm
upcoming
not even thinking about
projects
TV shows.
for
Secret
sure.
Agent,
Right? Because like I'm looking at like the movies we have coming up. We have the Spider-Man film. They're not going to be
No
there.
way.
Um the Doctor Strange Madness whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe. Maybe. I
yeah.
couldn't really see it, but like Guardians again, maybe. I that makes the most sense.
It
Love
makes
and
the most sense,
Thunder?
but like, yeah, I just don't know.
Probably not. And so I'm like, I'm really curious. I don't know where they're gonna put these characters.
Yeah,
In like what we know that's upcoming. And so that's where I'm really curious to see where these stories go because I'm not
yeah.
sure where we'll see them again.
And like, where's Marvel's gonna be? Like the Marvels, which is Miss
Mhm.
Marvel, Captain Marvel, and oh my god, I forgot her name, Monica Rambeau, but I can't remember her character's name.
Mhm.
Photon.
Photon.
Yeah, Photon. So
Mhm.
I'm like, is that a space story? Like, I don't know. And then again, like I just kind of brought out, I was like, well, are they going to be in the TV shows then? And like, there's, I guess, because I feel like I know what the slate is for Marvel coming out and what is left in this phase or whatever. So is this
Mhm.
just more stories that we're not told yet that's going to happen? And I'm very curious about that. Like, is there another space
Yeah.
tale or space story that's going to be brought up? Like, again, I'm very curious. I'm very curious where we're going to end up seeing these characters and how long it's going to take, because I am now invested in this group of people that I did never thought I would be. And I would like to see some
Right.
resolution soon. Like I was invested in the Guardians. It's been kind of a while since I've seen them. I'm very curious what they're up to. But yeah, I know. I'm very curious of like, this is what I love about this phase so far is I have no fucking idea what they're doing. Like I think I know what they're doing in Spider-Man. I think I know what they're doing in Doctor Strange, but I have no idea what they're doing at the end of Shang-Chi with all that stuff. I have no idea what they're doing with the Eternal stuff. I have no freaking clue. And then we still got Fantastic Four coming out. We got Blade still coming out. Like there's still so much, and
All the
Quantumania,
TV shows,
all the TV shows, Secret
right?
Invasion, Armor Wars, like all this stuff that I have no idea
Yeah.
that we is a whole new light of a future, and Ironheart as well. Like there's so much stuff that's here that and this will be out before then. Disney Plus is going to have something this weekend, this upcoming weekend. So hopefully we see some trailers there. I would love a Miss Marvel's trailer. I would love something. But yeah, I don't know. There's just so much still to look forward to.
I have one question for you left.
Yeah.
All right. If you can make any project with any of these characters, what would you make? I can go first because I have an idea. Because I was thinking about you brought up Shang-Chi and how so many people are wanting what's the sister's name?
Oh, I'm not sure. The man.
But they want like a TV show with the Ten Rings, with her
Yeah.
leading it. What's going on with that? Possible romance with Katie. I want that. But I want to see the dream team. I want to see, Makari,
Zayling is her name.
Druid, Jaling. Yeah, I want to see a show with them. Also, throw Kingo in there. Kingo's fun. And I just want to see, like, their time on Earth, like, when they're all separated. I want a show about that.
Oh,
Give me
I want a young Thor show with Kingo, because apparently they hung out when he was a kid.
Yes! I want Asgard with Kingo. I want that. Give me that.
Yeah,
Give me
how did that happen?
movie,
What's going
Marvel.
on there? Yeah, for sure. That's what I want. There we go. We figured it out. That sounds about right. Wow. Again, it has been a awesome almost a 2 episode worth. Usually our episodes are going to go about an hour. So I hope you enjoyed all of the discussion that we've had here talking about 2001's Eternals, because it is a good movie. Leave it up to your interpretation if you want to enjoy it or not. Just go see it. All right. I think that this is a solid movie. Your miles may vary, but you can hear that we're definitely passionate about this, and hopefully that carries on. So, any final thoughts or anything else? Do you think we got it?
My final thought is, I want to have conversations about this movie. If you made it this far, you know a lot of my thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts about this movie. One of the hardest things about seeing this movie early was not hearing people talk about it. So I want everybody who's listening, watching this, tell me all of your thoughts. I want to hear your perspective, what you think about what we thought. Just send me all of the thoughts, please.
As a matter of fact, I actually have a email that people could send people thoughts, and I'll probably put the link down below here, but it's going to be MCUniversitypod@gmail.com. Please, if you want to write into the show, that is where you'll be able to reach out to us, and then we can hear what you have to say, and then, hey, maybe we'll do a send up of us reading our mail. So definitely, please, if you have any thoughts, and of course, leave a comment down below. We'll also read those and maybe reply there as well, because the communication back and forth with our first Blade episode was really awesome and positive. So I'm very happy to keep that going for certain. So definitely,
I'd love to start doing like a mailbag like they do at the end of comics. I would love to do some episodes like that. So send us all your thoughts about anything we've put out so far, future things, whatever. Let us know.
Yeah. And I have some other ideas that I'm going to talk to Sly about that I'm curious about if they're interested. So we'll see what goes from there. But Sly, where can people find you, and what's going on with you on Saturdays?
On Saturdays. Oh, I have a show. Thank you for setting me up with that. You can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet at MC. You can also find me hosting and producing a show called 15 and 15. It's an interview show where my guest has 15 minutes to answer 15 questions. You can find that every week on Point in Progress on YouTube, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, of course, noon Central or 2 p.m. Atlantic, I guess 1 p.m. Eastern, all the time zones. Figure out for yourself. I have, when this goes up, I'll probably have my at least 2 episodes, maybe my third. My first episode, of course, is with the illustrious that Mario Rivera. If you've ever heard of him, who knows? And yes, other than that, you can find me on Point in Progress at MC. Those are all the things.
That's right. And of course, you can find me here at MC University at our YouTube channel at Point in Progress, as well as youtube.com/thatMarioVera, where I do videos over there as well. My Twitter is at NightMuteCity, and I am so happy we did this. Now the cat is ready to attack me, so we're going to go ahead and close this out. And that has been your extra credit for the week. Of course, your homework is still X-Men, which is going to come out on Wednesday. So hopefully we'll see you over there. And until next time, class is dismissed.